You're watching Rethinking the Mundane with Joe and Lex.
where a creative technologist and industrial designer looks at our everyday objects, questions its purpose, tries to repurpose it and give it new meaning, or we just leave it the way we found it.
This week we're talking about the CV.
CV is an interesting one.
You got a CV?
I made one
Once.
once and then I've never cared about it since then. So when you text me saying CV, I was like, oh, this would be an interesting conversation because I guess coming from the world that we're in, right? Being ourselves, both of being employees of people, the value of the CV. I haven't found value in the CV. Maybe when I think about that whole process, I think of maybe a CV confirms something. I don't know what it confirms. My thing has always been more about. I've obviously had been a bit more biased to like the portfolio of someone as a identifier, should I say, than a CV in that regards. I don't know. How do you approach that? Because, yeah, do you have a CV if I ask you that question?
I have
Back.
not, I don't think I've got an up-to-date CV. Although I was actually asked, I think it was last year, to send a CV in for, was it a job? I think it might have been, anyway, it's not very exciting. It's some research, a grant, I think. And I was thinking like, wow, I haven't put one of these together for years. Um, and what's the purpose of it? It's just a list. Really, it's just a list of the education and the work experience that you've
Yeah.
had. But how well does that actually communicate the person? And as you said, in the creative industries, you're turning to the portfolio as a way of getting a feel for somebody. But I guess there's two aspects of that when we talk about like the CV and the portfolio. Do you think that the the internet offers up a lot more opportunities because it used to be that I would lug around like a paper portfolio back in the day to go to interviews and show like printed out or like collaged foam boards of work.
Yeah.
And now obviously the idea of turning up at someone's door with a A3 pieces of paper is crazy. But I guess there's two aspects of it. One, do you think that the tools that we have available to us to be able to make things look better than perhaps we ever would by ourselves is making all the work kind of look the same? And secondly, do you think that there's just other ways in which we could communicate ourselves better with the use of technology?
And this is like a professional side or like a personal side. What side are we looking at? I guess professionally, you know, it's interesting, right? Because you think of it, that then the average think of it of yourself. Obviously, you delete Marama's Twitter account.
Yeah.
You still have yours, but you don't tweet.
I don't.
Okay.
I'm not a tweeter. No.
So when I think of me in terms of a professional context, there is LinkedIn, which is obviously the de facto professional profile. You put your different things you're involved in. That's very much like the CV place. You connect with other people, and that's an interesting thing because I remember LinkedIn when we first started community. The only way I was like, how do I reach out to people? I signed up to LinkedIn. And LinkedIn, I think at that time was a bit more closed off. It was like people only really accepted people that they knew.
Yeah.
Or some profiles you want to add, they basically would be like, you need their emails to access them. So the first place I ever really tried to identify myself was more like, how do I make my LinkedIn sound on point? Then how do I have a website after that looked on point? So if someone goes on my LinkedIn, maybe they're interested, they see a website, and then I look that particular part. I think for me, as a person, I guess, for the business, we've come up in that era of the internet where the personal brand is almost important to bring in business. I don't know if that was always the case in the past. I only know coming in this era. So I've had to be very conscious of like what that professional brand is and almost hide my personal identity in a way. Like it's like Twitter, you know, it's people follow me there for work. I also have friends on there. Instagram's quite similar. Sometimes I even forget. Oh, a lot of people follow me here for, you know what I mean. So I got LinkedIn, Twitter, Insta. I don't have Facebook, and yeah. So for me, I've almost been like tried to tailor that. Okay, you follow Alex for this reason, um, and then that personal side is almost like hidden in a way, or these apps give you close friends and things. So identity is such an interesting one for me because I guess I very much have pushed the professional identity for the last
Yeah.
10 years in a way. I don't know how you approach that concept of identity. Yeah.
It's it's a curious realization when you have to make kind of a move, as you say, between like away from using social media for your personal life and realizing that it's now become a professional platform or
Mm,
one where people are following you due to the nature of your work
mm,
rather than they're a friend of yours. And with all of these things, you now can just follow. So like with on LinkedIn, you historically you as you said you made connections. It was like it was the equivalent of your black book, your address
mm,
book of business acquaintances. And now you can follow anybody, so you can see what they're posting, and they don't have to be a connection. So, um, and I hadn't even kind of clocked it that actually LinkedIn is the new CV. I mean, there's no
yeah.
need for a CV when you've got everything that's written on your
Yeah,
CV on
on
your
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn
Yeah.
profile. And so everyone's sort of basically just sharing. You said, "Do I have a CV?" Well, I do. I mean, I have my LinkedIn profile is so up to date. I'm on
Mm,
it more than any other um, online platform. But the interesting thing about the portfolio, and obviously, I've seen so many portfolios. I
yeah.
mean, like we get sent them every day, and it's really it says a lot about somebody, but at the same time, it doesn't say much at all. And because it's so difficult to know how much of it is really heavily curated, how much of it is true, honest, raw thought, how
Hmm.
much of it has taken 5 minutes or 50 days to make within that. And everybody's done this. They all go through the process. They do the work. They create the product or the service or whatever it is that they field that they're working in. The project's done, and they go to the point where they're going to put it in their portfolio, and they redo the sketches, they redo the CAD models, they redo the renders, they style it, perfectly for the purpose of this portfolio,
Yeah.
which means that what we're seeing isn't even the truth. It's not even it's a demonstration of skill,
Yeah.
and there's definitely that. It's always going to be a demonstration of skill,
Yeah.
but even then, is it necessarily a demonstration of their skill? So, like, if you've used Photoshop or Illustrator in the last couple of months, you've got all these AI tools in it that kind of take what they think you're doing and then just make it look amazing. So, are we even seeing a demonstration of skill anymore?
But isn't that a skill itself, right? I
Yeah.
guess. Sorry, guys. I'm ill. Um,
You're doing great.
but it's that, isn't that? I guess for me, it's like it's something that when you was talking about perfection, right? And I'm like, is it because of the industries we're in where we almost don't need people to be perfect?
Hmm.
We look at people who are good at execution, where maybe other industries, for example, with a design interview, if somebody handed in their CV, oh, okay, interesting, you worked at so place. Okay, you have your portfolio. Oh, you worked at so place. Maybe I see your Instagram of your concepts or something. Oh, you worked at so. Then I bring you in, but you came dressed and wearing a suit. You're gonna be like, what the heck are you doing? You know. But with another industry, maybe like finance or like banking, if I came up pulling up looking like this, you know. So it's like sometimes I think like, you know, the CV has obviously forced us to be so perfect.
Yeah.
Even if you think of it, like, when I speak to some of my friends and they talk about applying for roles, some of my friends, they've spoken to me about they've gone to specialists who help them to like improve their CVs, or like using particular keywords. It's like the CV aims for perfection. Everything about it is perfection. It's not, you know, you've got to write like designed a camera which led to 1 million sales. Those like CVs have turned into this metric measurement type things, which shows to this person, I've created this concept that's produced tons of value, and it's built around as a value mechanism, right? And so it doesn't really, even portfolios sometimes can be built around that value mechanism. So it takes us away from maybe really you're seeing the intention of it is to paint this perfect picture of a human being. Think of it. Like we are selling CVs, identities, all of this stuff is perfection. It's perfect. It's all about perfect human, perfect designer, ideal person. Da, 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 you know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and if you take away those this societal pressures or societal kind of elements, and you just allow people to be like, just bring your sketchbook.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, show us the messiness of who you are. That's important. But we don't, I guess we still train ourselves to be perfect in a way. Like, even for that research grant, right? Research grants love a CV.
Yes.
I've done all these amazing work. So, but still give us the CV. Then I'm like, what did I say in the CV? Hi, I'm Alexander Fafega. Da 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 da. Okay, I'm just gonna. For the last 10 years, I've run the same company. You know what I mean? Like, but we still have those mechanisms, reward mechanisms with it. So, I guess my question to you is, what is a better way? What is it?
Don't worry about it. Leave it there.
We think, what is a better way?
What is it? I was going to ask you that question. um,
I answer it as well, but what is a better way? Like, what is? I think of it from a.
Do you know what? It's interesting because there's two things that I think tell me more about somebody. One of them is a social media account.
Okay.
You do not like my green tea, do you? One is a social media account, like you say, like going on Twitter X and seeing just the day-to-day things that people are tweeting about, because it's typically on the fly. It's not heavily curated. It speaks from straight from the mind or from the heart or whatever. So there's that, and then the very first method of introduction. So what they write not in the CV, not in the portfolio, but in the email that comes to me or to the company asking for work or seeing if there's any opportunities. It's how that's written, and that for me is, people don't think about it as much. Yes, okay, they definitely, there's people who heavily overthink it, and that for me is another reason why then I'm lost. I've lost the personality again. I've got lost the sort of the. I want you to write an email that's how you feel in that moment, making that decision to apply for this job or to write in and ask for work, not something that you've spent 6 hours on, that you've then copied and pasted and sent to every company that you can find and have forgotten to change the name of the business, and you've actually emailed Marama, but you said, you've mentioned another designer's name in the title. Yeah, I think so. Those are the kind of things that I'm looking for, and I guess to distill that down, it's how somebody reacts to a moment or acts in a moment that is more telling about how they are, who they are, than all of the you know, the continuous incremental improvements and iterations they've done on a CV that they've been, you know, tinkering away at for a year.
So then that leads me to that question. I guess obviously us coming from the design realm, what do you then, you know, if we've got, you know, you might have a CV process, you have a upload a CV, cover letter, CV, upload your portfolio, okay, have a first chat. Then it's like the conversation about the design task aspect. What do you think about those things? Is the job interview process by design is broken, right?
Job interview process is definitely broken. I mean, people go through multiple rounds of interviews and hear nothing back for 3 months, waiting, you know, waiting, and then basically get like a blank sort of letter of rejection. I guess in certain roles, in certain bigger companies, there is some level of like, I don't want to use the term AI, but I'm going to use the term AI, integrated into that process where you might have an interview that's like there's some sort of clever software integration that is monitoring the responses and then is able to create some sort of scoring system. It all sounds quite like Black Mirror, but it's already happening and it will continue to happen because it makes sense for businesses to just get this, you know, it's not hate, you know, it's just like the ultimate HR.
Yeah. But then the danger of that once again is we're missing it will obviously generate very biased results and it will penalize those who might be the superstars, but maybe they don't know how to speak the best words or put the right grammar in a CV form. So it's also that thing of like, if we defer everything to machine learning, you know, I remember, you know, in the past when we, you know, done some work on this with Feminist Internet, where we showed them of the examples, and I think it was a Amazon tool that was meant to be, it was meant to be an AI tool implemented to help Amazon through the hiring process, and I think the results showed that it was obviously more biased to women than it was to men and stuff, and even stuff like, you know, so, or even, you know, how does it deal with surnames? You know, coming from, you know, Nigerian background where, you know, we have a bunch of, depending on what tribe you are, we have a bunch of different surnames. You know, how do, you know, ML models deal with this? So I think it's an interesting thing. Like, if we defer to machines to speed up the process, do we harm ourselves in the long run? Or are there better ways to see, you know, should job interviews, instead of being an interview process, should it be more task-based? But then if it's more task-based, what is the incentive? How do you reward those, you know, folks to take, like, it's just, you know, yeah, what is the future? Is LinkedIn better? You know, because LinkedIn is obviously a professional network. You put your CV, you put your, you know, your profile on there, which is done in the form of a CV. People can endorse you and things like that. You can post things and work in progress on the go. So that's an opportunity for somebody to maybe, you know, it's still a very much, you know, I know you can apply for jobs via LinkedIn. I don't know how efficient it is on the other side. So any folks who are from, you know, that realm of HR recruitment who got any feedback, please hit us up. But is that an example of a space of having that digital profile, which here is my work experience, has me on the go, on the work in progress, on the flow, has my thoughts, my perspective, and having a bit more of a, like, this multi-layered approach rather than this paper, that PDF file that gets scanned by a machine learning
30 megabyte file.
Yeah. You know, so should that be evolved? What should
it be?
Yeah, especially in the realm of, if the multiverse is coming, you know, what should these things necessarily?
I think, the conclusion that I'm feeling from this short conversation is that people are so different, their skill sets are going to be very different, and we should be celebrating that difference, because you're totally right. If you only hire like carbon copies of the people who are already in a business, you're just going to end up doing things in exactly the same way, and
Yeah.
that's never going to lead to a business that is very, very innovative, coming up with like cutting edge ideas, because you're not able to push yourselves out of the box. You need people to come in and stimulate that, people with different ideas from different backgrounds who would just see the world in such a different way. So we need to go out of our way to find people who are from a real kind of diverse background.
Yeah.
And so we shouldn't just be reliant on the same piece of paper, because not everyone fits in the same box. Like you say, I mean, some people might have really struggled through their A levels.
Yeah.
But then have done all right at university, because they've kind of found the subject that worked for them.
Yeah.
And yet they have to put their A levels on their CV, because that's what people kind of expect.
Yeah.
The same with university. Maybe they didn't go to university. That's absolutely fine. But then there's just a gap where you feel like there's a gap. I felt like there was a gap in my CV when I put one job down, because I only had one job. This is it. I've only had one job. So my CV actually hasn't changed in 8 years, nor is yours.
No.
I mean, you've got a couple of teaching gigs that you can add in, but
that just helps me to get teaching and stuff.
That just helps with more teaching stuff. But yeah, I think
I wanted to quickly look at it because I don't think we gave a history.
We didn't give the history. No, I mean they started in 1482.
Yeah,
that's how long it's been.
Based on our Google search right now, so Leonardo da Vinci invents the CV because he was looking for work and he penned a letter to the Duke of Milan, outlining his skills, and he offered his services. Which is, in a way, it's kind of like almost like a portfolio, right? Because it's the same thing we would do with our own studios. Is we will have our studio websites, and we would email folks hoping that they take a look at it. But then even for us, the question asks is, how much clients actually look through our site? And, or do they look at it up? We can go into that. But I think there's even I guess, even for ourselves, what is the best way for people to see us, how we think?
You must have had jobs. We've definitely had jobs from clients who've never looked at our website. They've never looked at our website. They don't need to, because they've been recommended. They've been recommended us, and we've had a meeting, we've had a conversation, and we've just had a chat, and we've kind of gelled. We've written a scope of work. We've outlined how we would work, and that's it. So I think that like graduates put a huge amount of pressure on themselves for creating like the perfect website, the perfect. Like they just need to get out there and talk to people. Building a network is way stronger than building a CV. For sure.
Yeah. So how do we end?
Well, I think we got to end by saying, I mean, what's going to happen now is people are going to take all this advice, and then they're going to go away, create what they think to be the best CV and portfolio, and then send them to us.
I would love that.
So I guess what we're saying is, go for it, and we'll try and give some feedback and whatever.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I think it will also be. I think is a really. Hopefully, this is a thought-provoking conversation that touches on the notion of what is identity and what would identity look like in the years beyond. How do we communicate? How do we express that? I know there's probably somebody there sitting there that thinks everybody should have some microchip, type, Antichrist, Armageddon type stuff. Someone might say that you have a micro. I wouldn't be surprised if someone, one of them Minority Report type films or something.
Yes.
Where that stuff. My thing would be, everybody gets a ring, and this ring has your data file. And go, bing, and you've got your job. Yeah, but I hope there's a thought-provoking conversation as we talk about the curriculum
vitae.
Till
next time.